Let's talk about trusting the universe. What does it even mean, if it means anything? And to me it means trusting the flow of life, which means what exactly? Well, it means living in the present, again, which means what? It means doing what you can with what you have and paying attention to life as it is right now, instead of trying to force life to be something you think it should be. So there's no need to force answers, because answers and solutions naturally bubble up to the surface as we relax, and even when we are not relaxed. Because when you look at your life, pay attention to when you have aha moments or realizations. They happen often when you relax, at least in my life. So why learn to trust the flow of life, or whatever you want to call it? Well, in my life it's helped me be more relaxed, more at peace, and helped me have more energy for what truly matters, because there are moments in my life where there's not much happening. So in the past I might have forced myself to do something because I think I have to make progress in a linear fashion. So I exhaust myself, and then something comes along that I truly want to do, something that resonates with me, but I don't have the energy because I've spent so much running around trying to do things that weren't really for me. So it's about not being bossed around by your mind and your thoughts, and by the ideas you've learned, the assumptions, the perspectives, the values that are not really your own, unless you've taken the time to look at all that, or to truly follow what you find interesting. So I kind of stumbled onto this way of living because at the age of 16, I began following what was interesting to me, and it felt good, made sense. So I kept doing that, and I began to see that life has a rhythm. And I still spent over a decade plus just pushing life, forcing things, exhausting myself. But I was younger then, so I had more energy to do all the pushing. And I still want to from time to time. I still have those thoughts that I should be doing something. Life should be different than it is. But I notice those thoughts, and I can pay attention to them. I can notice them, like I mentioned. I can let them be and not get too involved in them. I don't have to believe the story. So while I say it's not about pushing, there is this natural movement that happens in my life when it's time to move. So there is a very, very fine distinction there that only you can discover through experimentation, which is why I always say to not listen to me. Don't take what I say as a step-by-step plan you need to follow, because that's never going to work. You have to find your own way of doing things. Now you might say, but I can't trust. Well, that's why you need to experiment and find your own way of trusting life. To start paying attention to how life works, how you work, how you feel your thoughts, how you create your internal experience through your expectations, which again are thoughts. And you need to find out for yourself how this works, and you do that by testing things out, taking small steps, noticing what's interesting to you, even if nothing seems interesting, just trying something and seeing what happens, instead of resigning into your mind and saying, oh, it's all hopeless or meaningless, or I shouldn't do that because it won't lead anywhere, nothing's going to come of it. to notice all those thoughts and all that thinking you've learned from someone else, from someplace else, and to begin to challenge it just by asking yourself, well, let's see what happens if I move forward anyway. And at least what I discovered is that my mind is so often wrong. It says to not do something, but I feel drawn to do something at a deeper level, and when I do that, nothing happens. So for example, the last few years have been very quiet in my life, not much doing. There's been more letting go of assumptions, perspectives, things I thought I needed. And it's been one of the best times of my life. It's also been painful, but there's a lot of learning and discovering that's happened there. And I don't think learning ever stops. It just keeps going on as long as I'm alive, as long as anyone is alive. So there's no end point. There's no getting anywhere, in a sense. So trusting the universe, trusting life, it's simply about paying attention to the opportunities right here, right now, and noticing what you can do with what you have. Where do you feel drawn to do? Or where do you feel drawn to go? Because we have all these ideas of, okay, I'd like to write a book, for example. So if someone wants to write a book, the next step, you may feel like, okay, well, I should start on my book right away, but you may feel drawn to maybe write flash fiction, short fiction stories, or to start a blog. So we have these preconceived ideas of where we should go to get to where we think we want to go, instead of simply following what's interesting to us, what feels magnetic. Because we never know where the path leads. So you may have this idea of wanting to write a book, and maybe you don't hold it so tightly. Maybe you see it more as a preference, and then keep on exploring what you find interesting. That, at least, that's what I do. I simply do what I can with what I have, where I am, and I notice my mind when it starts trying to push and force things, because I notice I begin feeling anxious, exhausted, whatever is going on. And so trusting life is about living in the present moment, noticing your mind when it's pushing, experimenting with taking tiny steps, and learning how this works for you in your life. Because we've been taught to push, to strive. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to find your own way of doing things. So the question is, how much do you really need to push? How much can you begin to trust yourself and begin to notice how life works?